Crazy German here. Going to keep working on the board that I was showing you on the last video that I did. Basically, as it turns out, obviously, after doing some math, an 8x4 board is not going to produce a 6x6 board by cutting one section off. So I ran out today, got another 8 foot by 4 foot board, and the nice thing about this situation is I was able to split the board right down the middle, and now we can have this 2 foot by 8 foot section. I'll cut 2 feet off. We got measured here to 6 feet. We'll cut that down to 2 inches or 2 feet off of this end, and on this board we'll cut 2 feet off of this board. The nice thing is this is going to become my section for the D-Day invasion, the beachhead, and then I'm going to take the sections that I cut off of this section of the board, and I'm going to cut these into the cliffs and hills for the approach from the beach, so that we can magnetize those onto the 6x6 board we talked about doing. So basically that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to cut the board down to a 6 foot by 2 foot section. We're going to attach some dowels. I'll probably just use old pencils, use up some old pencils we've got laying around, and use those as a stabilizer. We'll glue that. We'll bungee that or bind it some way so I don't have to use clamps until the glue dries. We'll just use Elmer's glue. We'll get that 6x6 square section going, and then we can start thinking about doing our tape on the edges, and we will do our sand. I think that's what I decided to do. I'm still going to stick with some sand. It'll help fill those wedges that they put in the boards for making it easy for them to break and section them off. We'll be able to fill those with some sand. We'll do it kind of light, and then once I do the sand, I'll do just what we did on this board I was showing you last time. And actually, I had forgotten what I did. All the other step that I did on this board was I did the glue, the sand with the wet glue, and then I did a brown paint on top of the sand. Once the sand and glue dried, I painted it, so that helped give it a little bit firmer, smoother feel. And that's the same tactic I'm going to use on this board. I'm going to do sand. We're going to do the wet glue with a spray bottle, and let's just go ahead and get that out. Might as well just do that right now. Here's the old trusty sand bottle. I got some cheap brown paint. I got some cheap black paint from Home Depot. So there's your spray bottle. You can pick those up, $5 or less. We will spray the glue on with the sand. Then we'll paint it with some brown. We'll definitely have a drink or two of Heineken beer, or any kind of good Holland or German beer. And we'll just keep on moving along. Now, a lot of you guys may say, why does he call himself Crazy German? Well, that's because I'm crazy about anything having to do with Germany, obviously. I drive a BMW. I have had several German cars over the years, and I'm just crazy about anything German. That's why my main force in Flames of War is Germans, obviously, and I wanted to show you a little bit of that obsession I have with all things German. Taking German in high school, taking German in college. I basically love anything involving German, especially German beer and German food. So you can see here I got 2 full bags of German stuff. For those of you that are also into the Germans, I've got this bag right here is entirely full of tanks. I've got Tiger tanks, I've got King Tiger tanks, I've got Panthers, I've got Panzer IVs, we've got Elephants, we've got half tracks, And then this is pretty much, this bag here is pretty much all infantry. I, of course, play Panzer Grenadiers heavily. I'm working on a Fallschirmjäger force here that I basically only have base coated. I'll show you those real quick. So that's one of my next projects. Excuse me, I still have some Russians I'm still working on my table here. Obviously, also into fantasy. That's Dark Elves. It's actually my son's army I'm painting for him. Dark Elf Dragon. And then I've got some American forces that I'm converting. I've got an armored attachment here of Americans that I'm converting. I had some scraps and some units laying around, which I'm basically going to roll into a I'm basically going to build it so that I have 3 armored platoons with half tracks, because that's really the only thing that's going to stand up to my Panzer Grenadiers and my Panthers. So that's kind of what you see here. I'm kind of building up another force here for the Americans. I'm going to turn that into another armored an armored American platoon, and I'll show you how I got that going on here. This is something I started doing a year or so ago. You'll notice here on the half tracks I've got them color coded. So I've got blue, we've got red, and we've got yellow, and you'll know that corresponds with the units that are off the table. Obviously they're in their half tracks here, and when they get to the area they want to deploy, I color code the bases. Now these I'm getting ready to convert to red units. So the red units are basically heavy weapons. So those will be just like in your army list. They'll be your bazookas, your machine guns, heavy machine guns, and your mortar teams, and your anti-tank gun will actually be in the yellow half track. So that way there's no confusion. If the unit does take an artillery attack and you take some of the units out, you know for sure which guys are bailing out of the half tracks, and there's no argument. So I really started with some arguments that ensued in some of the games, what I started doing was color coding the bases like this. I think it's a great idea. I actually got it on the internet from another guy, another player. I thought it was a great idea to color code them like that. You don't have to do that a whole lot with the German forces. They pretty much strictly carry Panzer Grenadier units that are already equipped with anti-tank weapons, so there's not really a lot of differentiation. But this is my German force. This is kind of set up around a Battle of the Bulge theme. We got some Panthers. Basically, these beautiful German armored spearheads, where you've got 3 Panther tanks that are supported by 3 half tracks, a command team, and accompanied also by an anti-air. Now I know a lot of the purists of the game are going to say, oh, you can't divide your anti-air. I've got another anti-air here guarding this heavy mortar team. I've got another off this list, another one. But honestly, I feel like there are some places in the game where you can use your own discretion. I think in real life, this is how a commander would have assigned his anti-air, would have been to specific units instead of keeping the anti-air permanently stationed in areas of the board. We got a couple of 88s up on the hilltop there. They pop some shots off with their long range, but you can see we did it's a kind of a lot of terrain that you have to work around and work through, a lot of woods. So this will mimic the battlefields around Holland, Belgium, and the like. So coming back over here to the American side, I've got these armored spearheads, which I'm kind of basically trying to mimic like the German spearheads. And we got our Easy 8s here, which obviously if you're an American player, you know that that's really the main tank you want to be taking, and that's something that we're still looking at doing with this Army list. Is this is a mixed platoon, and I would really like to look at just switching that out to more easy 8s, because if you look at the anti-tank ratings of the jumbo and the standard Shermans, they're not going to do anything against those Panthers. We've also got a recon platoon here for the Hellcats, but honestly the Hellcats, you're really not going to do a whole lot unless you can use your ambush and you can get side shots, and you can get this team positioned where they're going to be able to deploy the Hellcats shooting from the side of the German tanks, or they're just not going to do anything. The German tanks are just too powerful. So command hut, that's the objective of the Germans in this game, is to sweep one of the flanks and to take this command hut out. So basically that's what I'm trying to do here with the American forces. I'm trying to build an armored spearhead just like I have with the Germans, so where the Americans can actually have a fighting chance to actually get a flank on the Germans and and get some side shots on those tanks with their bazookas and their anti-tank capabilities. And we got artillery. You've got to have lots of artillery, and if you play Soviets, which we've got a whole bag of Soviets over here. Soviets, you really got to use the artillery, and obviously the Soviets have some great tanks, IS-2s, the T-34s, which are decent against some of the German tanks, but the ISU 122s, those will do well against the German tanks, but you still got to use a lot of artillery, and that's something that every tank's going to be susceptible to, is top shots from artillery barrages. So we definitely had to include some artillery. In fact, we're going to play this game out this weekend, and it just may come down to the point where we're actually going to need more artillery, right? We'll probably need to beef up this tank platoon to all easy 8s, and then I'm working that up for that with that 3rd armored platoon, boosting this up to a 3,000 point army to really make it more interesting. So I don't really care if the game takes for 2-3 days to play out, as long as it's interesting. So anyways, that's what we're working on. So we'll get this board going today. I'll do a little step-by-step for you, but for right now, I'm gonna pause this and do some work here.